Hey guys, I gave you a little preview of this before when I did my Amazon Prime review, but now it's time for the Leatherman PS4 Squirt review. And I must say that I have so many props that I'm going to show you with this Leatherman that you're going to think you're watching a Carrot Top show, honestly, but let's get into it. So, like always, I'm going to show you what you get in the box, but first of all, I'm not showing you all this stuff. I just wanted to show you, this is actually what I own for Leatherman, so this is how familiar I am with them. This is the original PST, what started Leatherman, the Pocket Survival Tool. Yada yada yada, that's great. But these I'm actually going to use. And I'm going to use the Wave, and I'm going to use the PS4 Squirt. And before we all jump over each other and say that's not a fair comparison, I know it's not a fair comparison, but I'm not going to be saying how hard can you use something before it breaks, because obviously I'll tell you right now, the Wave is going to be a better multi-tool in that respect. What I'm going to show you is how these tools that you might use in the Wave translate over to a nice keychain-sized version. So, and I know you see my gun in the background, don't worry, we'll get to that. We have quite a few props, and I'm going to be demonstrating how well the Wave and the Squirt, even though this review is on the Squirt, fare up against those. So, like I always like to do, what is in the box? Nice, small box, and it says Leatherman, helps if I turn it the right way, PS4 Squirt. A little bit of background on that. Before this, Leatherman had the P4 and the S4 and the E4, which stood for pliers, scissors, or electricians, and people wanted, pliers and scissors, so they combined it. You did lose a few features, like you don't have the tweezers in these now. That was on, say, the P4, but they combined the P and the S4 into the PS4, and they combined the E and the S4 into the ES4. ES4 means electricians. It means you get wire strippers instead of pliers. I'd rather have pliers myself. I don't do enough electrical things to need wire strippers. So, in the box, you get your Leatherman PS4. I happen to get it in Glacier Blue. And you see it there. I put a little lanyard on it. I put this fake paracord lanyard. Funny thing, I thought I was buying real paracord when I bought this green crap, but no, it's not. And putting that down, you get a actually very detailed little brochure about all, not all of Leatherman's tools, but their mid and small size tool. There's no Wave on here, and there's no like charge or anything like that, but it's got the juice, and it has the Squirt and the style, and it has a very detailed list of which tools they have, and it's actually a nice little thing if you're interested in buying maybe another Leatherman after you get this. But that's all you get. You don't get a sheath like you do with the Wave, and that might be a negative for some, but you have to remember this is a keychain tool. And actually, some of these did used to come with a small sheath. I know Nothing Fancy's came with a small leather sheath, but this doesn't. No problem. I actually bought this to fill the need of when I didn't want to put this big Wave on, even though it's a fantastic multi-tool. I can just slip this in my pocket and try to get some of the same functionality, and this review will tell you how that works out. So, getting into the tools, go with each of them. Start with the pliers. There's needle nose, regular, and a wire cutter, so let's talk about those three tools. And I'm going to try to make this a one-part review, but if not, there is quite a few things to get through. It might have to be a two-part. Anyway, so there's your pliers. You have your pliers, your regular, you have your needle nose pliers, your regular pliers, needle nose pliers, regular pliers, and wire cutters. And on the Wave, you have your needle nose, your pliers, your wire cutters, but then you also have hard wire cutters. What does that mean for this little tool? Absolutely nothing, because obviously you're not going to be really getting into hardwire like you can with this. So, no loss there. Don't even count that as a markdown. So let's see how each of these work. My first prop that I'm going to bring up, Zippo. Everybody loves them. Everybody knows them. So, why am I bringing this up for the needle nose pliers? This is a job that I often have to perform. Try it out with the Wave, pulling the wick up. Obviously it does just fine. And this baby fits right in there. And does just fine as well. So needle nose about the same. Good deal. Putting the lighter down for a bit. We'll revisit that later. Moving on to my 995 carbine. Why does this have anything to do with Leatherman, you may ask? Well, this bolt right here, the operating handle. sometimes gets loose at the range. I've purposely loosened it up for this purpose. And it's really great when I have my Leatherman. I can tighten this down. I can just grab this with the regular pliers and turn it. As you can see, I can do it with the Wave. Let's try it out with the P4 Squirt. Just fine. So, tighten that down. And there you go, it's all tight now. So the regular pliers, nail nose pliers, work great for what I'd be using them for. And again, you have to remember, and I'm going to say this again, I don't know how many times I'm going to end up saying this before this review is over, they serve different purposes. Obviously, this is for more heavier duty tests. This is really going to take a lot to break it. I don't think a human could actually squeeze that hard enough to break it, and I'm sure somebody's going to prove me wrong, whatever. Everybody's got to one-up each other. But this, I could break it if I really squeezed, but they're not for that purpose. This is for much lighter duty tasks. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to be using it for heavy duty, that might not be something to look at. Whoops! Almost tipped the tripod over. Moving on now. Oh, wire cutters. So obviously got to move to my next prop. A little piece of soft wire. Soft wire because obviously it's not hard wire cutters. So the Wave, just going to come in here like Big Papa, cut that. I actually cut it with the hard wire cutters, doesn't matter, it just snips right off. If I can do it with the soft wire cutter, bam, there it goes. As for the Squirt, my one gripe that I have with these wire cutters is that they might actually be a little bit too small. Not too small to fit the wire in, but if you have, like, some of this wire comes with a coating on it, it might be slippery. So if you go to squeeze down on it, it might actually slip out of the teeth, and it might take a couple of tries. So, there you go. I snipped off the end. So they work if you need to cut some wire. Obviously not hard wire cutters like the Wave. It doesn't have that little, I don't know if you can see it. You see this little space down at the bottom of that wire cutter? That's the hard wire cutter if you're really going to snap something like baling wire or something. I have no idea what baling wire is. That's what people say when they're talking about hard wire, so why not? I'll be with the in crowd. But honestly, moving on. Let's move on to the outside. By the way, no tools on the inside. There are no tools on the inside of these handles because it's all room for the pliers. Unlike the Wave, which has tools on the inside. But I really don't care if they're on the inside or outside. I don't need them. You know, the difference of opening something up. I mean, sometimes it's nice to have tools on the outside. Like the Wave has the tools on the outside. So does the Squirt, but if they're on the inside, it doesn't really matter to me. Anyway, more tools on the Squirt. Knife. Okay, I have another issue with this knife. Okay, not that it doesn't lock, because I'll tell you right now, it doesn't lock. But again, that's not what it's intended for. It's intended for light use. It's chisel ground, meaning that only one side of the blade is ground. So, like on the Wave here, it's double ground on both sides, and it's very sharp. But on this, it's only single ground, and that means flat out that it won't retain the edges long. It's not going to be too much of a problem for me because I always obviously carry things like a Spyderco knife, a main blade. But if somebody's going to carry this just for, having a little knife, it is chisel ground, so it won't hold its edges long. But as for a cutting test, I can tell you right now this video is going to have to be 2 parts. Got a piece of paper here. Razor sharp from the factory. And the Wave, because I baby this blade, so I always have a sharp blade on me. Should still be about as sharp from the factory as, yep. So Leatherman, got caught up a little bit there at the end. My stupidity. So Leatherman's come razor sharp from the factory. That's good. And both of these are 420 HC. Not fantastic steel, but again, for what I'm going to be using them for like knife blades, because again, I always have a main blade, adequate. Move this prop out of the way. No serrated blade, but oh well. I have a piece of paracord here, just now that I'm talking about serrated blades, even though I'll use a plain edge blade. Wave, cuts right through it. PS4 Squirt, cuts right through it, no problem. And I'm actually going to stop the video right now, and I'm going to make part 2 of this. This is my first ever 2-part video. I'm so excited. Thanks, and we'll see you in part 2.